Hey everybody, Mike Pfeiffer, Pfeiffer Hobby Supply. Today, where the ranch is, or where I maybe had said that somebody had suggested putting a ranch back there where the black foam core is, I'm going to plaster that and I'm going to show you how I do it. Okay everybody, this is our setup. I have my 3-step stool. I have the towel over the existing track. I have newspapers on my left-hand side. I have the board in the middle, and you can't see them, but I have a brand new pair of knee pads with gel, which should be wonderful. And then if I zoom in a little bit on this, if I can, let me move the camera down a little bit. You can see that I have the corral and the ranch house, which are going to go in back there, and then I've got barbed wire fencing that I can put around it. Once I get all the scenery done and everything, I can put the barbed wire fence around, put the cowboys in, put some trucks over there, and I'm thinking, and I don't know if I can get my finger in this picture, right over there the road's going to go through the town, and then I'm going to make it curve, and I'm going to paint the road on the backdrop going out across the mesa over there. There will be some kind of a hill in between, and then there'll be a road that goes through the hill, like a little cut, and a road that goes through into where the ranch house actually is. So that being said, we're going to get started, and you're going to see how I accomplish this. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is get started by wetting some of these newspapers, creating this little retainer along here. Then I'm going to make my little hill here with the cut in it that'll go back into the ranch. So the first thing we're going to do is just wet up some newspaper. I just dip it in my water that has my plaster and everything else in it. It doesn't really matter. And what I do is I kind of stretch it out like so, and I just start placing it. And its sole job is just going to be to hold up the plaster cloth. That's all. I have my, I think I told you I had my structures here, so I know how things are going to fit. I didn't get any well, maybe I did get some big pieces of newspaper. These are kind of small. I like doing it in bigger pieces. It goes a lot faster. But as you can see, I wet it, then I kind of open it up, and then when I put it in place, it'll kind of stay in place until you get to the point where you can put your plaster cloth on. And right here, you can't see it probably from your angle, but there's a little bit of a rise in the backdrop right there. We're going to duplicate that rise, kind of coming out at an angle here, just to make it look like there's a little canyon that goes back in there. Not very high, doesn't have to be very high, just has to give you the impression that it's there. By the way, the gel feels pretty good on my knees. I don't know how long my feet are going to be able to sustain working on here, but now you can see how I get up here. And there's no sense in removing these pins, these Woodland Scenics pins that are in here, just because I'm not going to make this thing lift out. I thought I was, but I'm not. And there's no sense in taking them out. They can live in there. So in our world, our little hill is kind of going to converge this direction. And I like using the wet newspaper simply because you can look at it mocked up and actually see how it's kind of going to look, you know, before you get too crazy. And we're gonna put this little pile here, right about here, and then I think we're going to put our road through that little crack right there. But I need to add some more down this way. So we're just going to take and open this up a little, and we're going to kind of do this. It doesn't have to be, I mean, you know, it's whatever appears in your head. You know, there's really, I think some guys just try and, I don't know, they overthink it and they try and plan too much, you know, and it just doesn't, it never quite comes out, you know. They stay in the planning stage. They get stuck in the planning stage, and I don't get stuck in the planning stage. I get stuck in the moving stage. So here we are. I'm just gonna put a little bit right in here because our hill's gonna kind of end right here, and it's gonna kind of go across here, something like so. And then I have a little wispy piece we're going to put right in there. And our road is going to come right up here and go right there. So we're going to try and make a little wispy piece there and just kind of make a hill that goes down into there. I hope that makes sense. Well, you'll see. You'll see if it makes sense or not. And once we put some plaster on it, then you'll really see how it makes sense. For our wispy part, we're just going to use one end of this, something like that. And we're just going to kind of wad this up. Something like that. Now you can kind of see how our road's going to go down in. And I got to cut this. I got to take this, not cut this, but I got to move this back because this building's going to kind of go right up in that little crotch right there. If you see what I'm talking about. Something like that. I got a few more little pieces that I got to put in along here because they would have flattened off the ground where they're going to have their ranch, and their corral and so forth would have been leveled off, or they would have picked a place that was already leveled off. So we're just going to kind of extend this out this way with some small pieces. I don't want to make them too big, I just have to tear them up again. But we're going to just kind of, it's just going to be a little edge along there. And it'll also keep the plaster from going down on the track below, which is kind of nice. And we're going to kind of, we just got to put a little tiny bit right in there. And we got to put a little tiny bit right in there. And we're going to put a little bit, our remaining little bit, right in there. Now you can kind of see the road is going to go that way. The road into the ranch is going to come through here. The ranch will be in here, and the ranch property goes that way. But the ranch house will definitely go back here somewhere. Okay? I think I'll look for the other corral, because I think this is the one that goes to Schmelly Meats. I believe that's the one that goes to Schmelly. I like that. I just don't know if that's the right corral. I'll have to figure that out after a while. I want to get just the basic shape, and I think that corral's a little bit big for being at the ranch house. I think I have I'm pretty sure I have a little small one. Just don't know where it is. Now all I got to do is remove the house. And I got to blend this down in here a little bit. So we're just going to put a little bit of stuff here. Like so. A little bit of newspaper back in here where it's going to drop off. Push some of this back a little bit. I need a little more space than what I thought I was going to need here, but I do like it. We're going to pull some of this back to the edge. just to give us a little more room in there. And I think I'm going to put a wad right there and just kind of flow that out just a little bit. In fact, I'm not real wild about the real heavy slope to this, so I think I'm going to redo the surface of that a little bit now that I can see it. And this is something you usually have to do, is see how it's going to look and go from there. It just looks too flat to me. It needs some texture. So we're going to make texture. We could do it with plaster, but it takes a whole lot of plaster to make texture on something that ain't textured, because you got to put it really thick. But what we're going to do is we're going to open some of this up. And we're just going to put it on this hillside here. On this forward hillside. I should have done this the other night when I was doing this job, but I just didn't get to it. Something like that, and we're going to continue around the corner there just a little bit. But you can kind of see how that's creating the texture that we're looking for. And when I say texture, I mean it looks like wet wadded up newspaper right now. But when you put the plaster cloth over it, you will see that it creates a whole different texture. And I don't like the really flat top on that either. So we're going to fix that right now as well. The back I don't care so much, because you're not going to see very much of it, you know. It's more distant. We're going to put a little bit up here like so. Just so that doesn't look so even. Now, I'm going to rest my feet for just a second. If I can. Now, what we're going to do is, I'm going to bring my tray around the corner here just a little bit. And I already have my plaster cloth up here. And I have it on newspaper because it'll be shedding stuff all over the place. And I'm just going to pull a bunch of it out and cut it into big pieces for right now, because I'm going to need some big pieces back here, and we'll go that way. And I know if you read about plaster cloth, they tell you to overlap it by 50%, but we have support under it. It's not like we're putting it over some kind of cardboard structure or something, okay? So we don't necessarily need that support in this particular application. So I know you guys can't see this, but I got my water tray here, and I'm just going to dip this. No big deal. I just dip it through one time. I just fold over the top edge just to make it a little more rigid. And I'm just going to lay this over the edge. Like so. And, you know, we can push this around down into the paper. Now you can see the texture that it's applying there. And now you can see that it's disguising the flat top of the hill. I'm going to get another big piece. We're going to do the same thing all over again. And I'm just going to drape it over the side. And I'm blending it into what you're not going to be able to see back here. And just, you can just tap it in, or, you know, push it in as you want it to be. Now you can see that looks more rounded than a piece of foam. That's what I like. That's what I want to see. I'm going to take one of my big, well, I need one more big piece over here. And I'm not going to fold the edge of this piece because we're going to try and lay the whole thing flat. And it's going to go right in here. And I'm going to pull it back so it just covers that piece I laid right there. And we're just going to push it right down into what we already got there. Now that will give us a 50% overlap piece right there, and there's track right below that. So it doesn't hurt to have the strength there. Don't need it, but it's there. But I try and be as sparing with the plaster cloth as I can be. I think they want you to just use more of it and more of it so that they can sell you more of it, but that's not my bag. And we're going to start over here, and we're going to take this down to the ground, and we're just going to blend this in. And I always like to, and I don't, you guys probably can't see, but I always like to push my edges in so that I don't have any gaps, because if you have gaps, it's going to be really hard to fill that with your plaster, okay? You're going to use a lot of plaster to fill any gaps that you have. So we're thinking down the road on how we're going to use less plaster. This piece is going to have to be pushed back a little because I'm not exactly sure where this track goes. So I want to keep this track here. I want to give it some slack room. But you can kind of see what I mean about pushing it back, and you can push it back, you can pull it out, and you can get it into some kind of configuration that you like the look of. And I like the look of that. We're going to cut another piece in half here. And I try and get as much water off this as I can before I move it. I'm going to flip over the outside edge, and I'm going to put that outside edge right up against my backdrop. And I got it pretty tight against the backdrop, but I have a little piece of paper sticking out there. Don't worry about that kind of stuff, because we can take care of that in the end. I think I'm going to use this piece like it is. And I've got it backwards. And when I say backwards, I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. I'm going to use this right here because it just looks like it'll fit. I really think that putting the plaster cloth down is the art part of the whole thing. Try and move my legs a little bit. I obviously can't be up here for a whole long time because, well, I'm old. Now I'm cutting pieces, my big pieces, in half, and I'm doing it over here where I shouldn't be doing it, but I'll vacuum this because the plaster that bleeds off of these just gets on the track and everything. And it won't really stick to nothing, but it won't let your train run either. So I've got a little piece here that I'm going to put around this piece of track. Kind of make a little crease in there, just some kind of visual thing. Now, when I talk about the right and the wrong side, and I don't know if you can see that, but on one side of this plaster cloth, the plaster is flat. On the other side, it's lumpy. The lumpy side goes out, okay? And I'm gonna put a piece. That piece was kind of big to use there, but that's okay. Over that piece of paper that I had sticking out over there. Now what I'm going to do is, and this isn't a wise thing either, but I'm going to fold a piece in half and use it back here. And I'm just going to try and take this along my backdrop there. And this piece is a little too big for that, so we're going to change gears here. We're going to fold the edge of this, and we're going to move this one out here. Right about where the trees are there. And we're just going to push that into shape, sort of. I've got another big piece here. We're going to cut
cut it in half, and then we're going to take one half of one of these and we're going to cut it in half. And this one bigger piece, we're going to put right here at the mouth of the canyon, going down. And you can see how that kind of works out. I'm going to take these littler pieces and we're going to go along the edge in here and try and start creating the top of our hill. And I'm probably going to wind up having to stop this video here at some point because I think I'm going to have to go get more plaster cloth. I think this was my last roll. Now this piece here, this is going to be a little bit of a challenge. I'm going to fold the edge and I'm going to put it up against my backdrop. And I'm always kind of careful how I get it up against the backdrop because the scenery there is going to blend into the backdrop at this point. And what I'm trying to do is flatten out as much as I can this piece that's going to be the base of where the ranch is going to sit. Because then you're going to have to do way less leveling of the ground there when you put all this stuff down. I'm going to cut this big piece in half. We're going to start going this way. See, there's no rhyme, at least in my case, there's no rhyme or reason to this. It's merely, I go by the pieces that I cut. You know, I look and see where they're going to fit, and that's where they go. You know, it's not rocket science, as they say. All I have to do is take that down to ground level. I don't really need to stretch it out on the pink foam or anything like that. I'm going to pull up on this and get a little bit of the wrinkling out, like so. And you can see that that kind of makes a good hill face there. I have a couple small pieces back here that I had from yesterday, or not yesterday, but the other day, and I am just going to utilize those because I have a naked space right here. So we're just going to utilize that there. And not sure what we're going to do now. I got another piece of that, and I think I'm just going to wet it and see where it fits. How about that? Why don't we do that? It looks to me like it's going to fit pretty good right about there with the road coming in. And I'm going to widen up the road just a little bit there. And there again, where it's flat here, I'm going to spread out the plaster a little bit and make sure that that plaster cloth stays straight. Not straight, flat. Let's see here. We're going to cut this one in half because we're going to have to manipulate some pieces over here. And like I said, I'm probably going to run out of plaster cloth here before we get that far. But we're going to put this one right in here. And like I think I've said it before, you can work right around most existing scenery as long as you're careful and not drip the drippings from the plaster cloth on what you're doing. You're usually okay. I mean, it's pretty easy if you get most of the water off of it in your pan. It's pretty easy to accomplish that. We're going to turn this piece around because we need the smooth edge over here. And we're going to put the crooked edge at the top. And we're just going to pat down the seams as best we can. You can't ever get them all the way out, but you can get them pretty close. And we're going to take this edge down and stick it to the foam core. And you can see what we're winding up with here. I love it. I'm loving it. We're going to cut this piece. It's kind of rolled up, but I'm cutting it into 3 small, longer pieces, and I'll show you why. Because I'm going to go right here. And we're going to fill that in. And we're going to go flat right there. And then we're going to get another piece of that. In fact, we're going to cut this one. This is weird, but we're going to cut this one at an angle. Why? Because we need to go back here. And I don't want to crease that edge because I want it wispy. I want this edge wispy back here as it goes down in there because it's so shallow. It's not important. It's just one of my quirky things, okay? Just one of my quirky things. Now we're going to take the last piece of that one, and I think we're going to put it right along where we just did that. Like so. Now, I hope you can see how it's all coming together here. Gave my feet a little rest and I'm going back on my feet. I think we're going to use this curve, that piece right in there. I think, like I was saying, and maybe you didn't understand, maybe you did. I just kind of visualize where this stuff goes. By the way, I'm putting it right up against the track because there was a melted hole right there. And we want to keep our ballast from going down that hole. So we're going to butt the plaster cloth right up to that just to plug the hole. So now you kind of see how that is. I've got a little bit more. I might have enough to get done here. So I'm going to cut a little bit bigger piece. And I don't think that's big enough. I think I screwed up. I didn't make it big enough, but that's okay. Plaster cloth is not, it's not a science, okay? We're going to put that right in there. By the way, this stuff back here is getting a little bit rigid already. So I'm going to brush this out. And I believe I'm going to cut this up into some smaller pieces so that I can finish making my my flat bottom to the ranch. We're going to take this guy. I thought it was long enough. It's not. We're going to put him right in here. We got a little tiny piece here, and I'm going to have to cut another little tiny piece. This just gives the scenery material something to bond to, okay? It's, a lot of guys will put their scenery material right on the foam or right on the foam core or whatever. I have found, in my personal experience, what happens there is you're, at some point in time, and you guys know I've torn out a lot of layouts, you find that your scenery material does not, when you tear out a layout, you find out that it doesn't stick to certain places. You don't normally find it when the layout's in place, but you can see how it doesn't stick when you go to take the layout apart. And that, I don't know if that's important, I'm just telling you it's an observation. So there's the road into the ranch. I got one more little piece here, and I have a little, I know you can't see it from over there, but I have one little bitty hole over here. So we'll cut one for there, we'll cut one for over there. And like I say, these are just little itty bitty pieces just to cover holes. And the reason I'm covering this one back here is, because, like I said, there's track under there, and I don't want the scenery material falling through onto the track down there. And I have one little spot to patch up right here. Easy enough. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. Easy peasy. This stuff is so easy to work with and make landform. To me, it's just incredible. I have a little piece here I'm going to save. I have some of a roll left. In fact, I got quite a bit here actually. I'm going to cut, there again, I'm going to cut some larger pieces. And I'm probably right in your way. And I'm sweating like a pig because it's chilly down there and hot up here. And I have it set on 65. But I'm working, so it's how it goes. And I got 2 shirts on today, and it's not a 2-shirt day. So I'm not going to cut. I'm going to use this piece just like it is. And we're going to put this right in here, like so. Just like that. Now you can see, and I know my hands are messy, but you can kind of see that our structure is going to go right in that little crack. So right now I'm going to move her down a little bit, and we're going to fill all that in back there. And I know you probably can't see this either, but these buildings are where they go, and the hill is just going to go down to the edge of the building there. And we're going to use one of these, and we're going to fold it at the top, just to make it, in my opinion, just to make it a little more rigid. And we're going to put that right against the backdrop, like so. And we're going to bring it down, however it flows, however it flows. That's the best rule of thumb, is to just do stuff how it flows. I have a little lip here too, where the one piece of foam goes over the other, and you can see that I'm going to leave the plaster cloth bridging that with a smooth bridge. And let's see here, we're gonna continue on with that same mentality there. And I'm going to fold this one too. And we're going to put it right here. And we're going to pull it across. And we're going to lay that right down flat there. Just like that. Now I've got a little gap back here, but I hesitate to pull that up just because I'm going to lose this over here, and I'm going to lose the smoothness here. So I think I'm going to leave that alone, and we'll just work with plaster back there. I'm going to cut this piece in half and work with a couple of smaller pieces, just because I think it's going to be easier back there where I'm going. We're going to fold that just to make the edge a little stronger. And we're going to put that right back there. I'm liking that a lot. We're going to take this piece that I have, this little leftover piece that's relatively large, we're going to stick it right in here. And we are going to smooth that out to the best of our ability there. And poke it in. And take it on down to the wrench. And I'm going to use my finger to try and... The reason there's lumps on this is because there's extra plaster there. And what you're supposed to do is wet your finger and fill all these holes. As you go over this, that extra plaster is supposed to fill all these holes. I don't worry about it so much here because my plaster is thick enough to fill those holes. But now, I believe now, you can kind of see where we are right there. I need one more thin piece. I am definitely going to have enough plaster here. I'm going to cut me one with a relatively straight edge. And it's kind of long because I'm going to do the street over there. Okay? I'm gonna bridge that where I told you that foam core falls off. I'm gonna bridge that once again, right there, and that's gonna dry right in midair, just like that. I'm gonna brush it a little bit, then I'm gonna pull it out again. I know you guys can't see how I'm pulling it out, but I'm stretching it across that gap. And I think I'm going to stop right there because the rest of it can be done with plaster. The building would go back in here like something like that, you know, back towards the track a little bit. I don't really see anything else I need to do here. Okay, for now, we're going to leave this like this, and that'll be the end of this part that I'm going to show you right now. And I have a little bit of plaster cloth left and just a tiny bit of water, and I will show you the mess when I get off of here. Here you'll be able to see the mess. I'm going to back up, try and be halfway careful getting on my stool. As you guys know, oh, my leg's asleep. And there we have it. And now we have some sort of cohesive structure back there. And I like it. Okay, everybody. And that's Plaster Cloth 101 on my ranch area back here. And I hope you enjoyed how I do it. And I hope it made some sense to you. And as usual, thanks for watching.